Hello, good morning, and happy Friday. We're finally here. Uh, and I remember to bring the design book down today. So this is that book that I was oh, you can almost see it. Oh, there's some green in it. That's why. There's some okay, you're never gonna see it. There's some interesting stuff in here about specifically like understanding how to get there and how to turn. And then I think that I might have been mistaken about domains. I think they might be standards. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. Do standard or domain? Where is that? Oh yeah, standards. Okay. So you start with a standard, and then we create understandings from that. So it's not really domains; it's understandings. So if I were to come back to here, these are gonna be whoa. Okay, don't need standards, which are also like ah back like specific things that action testable. Well, like they're supposed to be like testable things that can be done. I wonder if I can get a definition of a standard from here. Standard. Oh, I was way too early in index. Where is? Okay, so there's the T. Oh, I'm missing it. Skipping this page would not really help. Definition of a standard. Page 65 and 350. Let's try 65 first. Okay. It also has like a misconception alert in here. In this book, we use the term standards to refer collectively to formally specified learning goals in the subject areas. In some places, the standards refer only to content, but in others, they refer to performance indicators or the equivalent. Whether they refer only to the inputs, content, or the desired outputs, evidence, for our purposes here, they are lumped under the term standards. So basically, evidence of. I like that word. It's like I want it's like it's the ability to like sort of prove like these are goals that the learner must be able to do. Something like that. So it's the outputs essentially. All right. So we left off in pure components. Function component is considered pure when the return to HTML is deterministically. Oh, and I guess something else in the first few minutes while we're here. If you're watching this and there's something that you absolutely want to have included in the course, let me know. Either in comments here live on Discord. We can, if I feel that it matches, I'll add it in. If it doesn't match, then I'll consider it for maybe a different course. Okay, so I don't know if it's necessary to be able to create to like know what a pure component is, as more of create a pure component. Oh, and I think we already did this one, so it's really going on to hooks. Now this one, absolutely, absolutely essential. So I think there's a few things in here. So first of all, Um, I actually don't think that a lot of people would say that it's required to understand like how hooks work, but I think that's really important. So describe how hooks work. I want specific hooks that I think are absolutely essential to use. Use state. So use the use state hook. And it might be something like, well, no, I think that's good enough for it. Was you use memo there before? I don't remember. Um, use node ref. Use effect is really important. The context. That might be under creating and setting the context though, so that might be slightly different. Um, to know about, okay, so to determine if the when, I guess, like to determine when to use the use force update, or I guess like it'll be to use the use force update. Might need to talk about the difference between the two use effects since they're both important. Are you talking about the use effects and use effects with depths? Yeah, we can go with that too. Um, describe when to use the use effect. Actually, it would be like the star with depths hooks instead of the normal hooks. Something like that then. I'll also hello stacking. How's your Friday going so far? Um Bill Seaman. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but hello. Good morning. Custom hooks. I think this is really important too. So be able to create a custom hook. Um, and so this is going to be two things, like be able to create a custom hook, and then the other one is describe why or when to create a custom hook. And this is just talking about like how to describe custom hooks. Okay. Um, Now, something interesting is like they're not exactly the same as U-hooks, but the underlying concept is similar. That unfortunately doesn't give enough confidence for me to say like, oh yeah, they're exactly, this is how they're going to work under the hood. I'm guessing that they'll be similar like that, but I would need to like create some and verify that myself. Unfortunately, the OR was overbooked, so your surgery was put on standby. So just chilling in bed on this Friday until you get an update. I mean, are you in a hospital bed or are you in like your bed? Because if your bed, that's nice. The hospital beds are not nice. Home, nice. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. Well, I'm hoping that it's soon and you can get it over and done with, because being in limbo for that kind of thing, it never is not. It's never nice. Okay, node refs. The ref attribute can be attached to the node ref to an HTML element in callbacks. You can then get the DOM element that the ref is attached to. This can be. So I tried to use this. Oh, right. It's I tried to use this for I tried to use this in order to manipulate it. It's read-only access. This is okay for forms, but even then there's better ways to do it in my opinion. Um, but node refs are going to be important to be able to do. So this is um so use node refs to get DOM access, or get access to a specific DOM node. State. Okay. So we already have that use the state hook. But this would be, so create local, like a component state. Create component state with a function component. Create component state with a struct component. Describe which, why, where to put state in a in an application that has multiple levels of nested components. This is something that always tripped up students when I was teaching in a classroom. Just sort of like knowing where do you put the state? Like, is it just like every single component gets a state? Do you create one single state in the app a component, or somewhere else? Other things that I think would be good is um, I want to a debug an app that has an infinite state updating bug. Like we run into that already, quite often. At least quite often for like what the bugs are that we run into. So I think that's like one of the most important things to learn about state and updates. I guess something else that's really really important here, and I haven't actually seen this talk about lifetimes, which I would have thought that the hooks would have included about something like that. Um, how to do fine-grained reactivity, something similar to mob XJS. I'm not familiar with mob XJS. Is that a So I never did like the, what was it? It was like reactive X something. It was like around the same time that React was like coming out, and I got into React more than anything else really. Hmm. Now, but fine grained reactivity. So because of that, can you define a little bit more what that means as opposed to just normal reactivity? Maybe my normal reactivity is the same as that, but maybe not also. Debug an app. Is there anything else? Oh, I think something else that's really important here. I mean, there's quite a few things. Oh, life cycles. So describe the life cycle of a Yew app. Instead of rendering everything on set state, you only re-render the components that have dependencies on the data changed. That's what Signal's trying to do in something like Solid, but I don't think Yew is anything like that. No, and one of the ways to sort of get around that is to, instead of having like a single mega state, because the single mega state will trigger re-renders if anything within that state is changed. The way to sort of get around that is to break it out into really small states. So if you do that, then is the trigger only happens like on specific things, and that ends up being true for both like Yew state type things and then also global states like Yew.rs. And that is really good to sort of like describe the lifecycle of an app. Maybe break. So like this would be, I want to like break out a I want to like break down refactor a refactor an app, or maybe this would just be like describe how many times, describe if an app will re-render, if a component will re-render needlessly. You never use component states anymore. Always a big store with fine-grained reactivity, same efficiency. I've been using local states here. I do try to, like, if I'm using something like Vue, I generally try to avoid just local state, and I go with the centralized state. I do notice that with things like Vue, with things like React, because of the virtual DOM, it's moving away from like single mega states and into lots of smaller fine grained states, because then that way the components know, or it knows exactly when to re-render the components. So instead of one big store, it's lots of small stores, if that makes sense. I think here, like, there's some interesting things with lifetimes and other stuff. I think it makes it a little bit more nice to use some like component state, but only in order to like determine like some like re-rendering type stuff. This does not work for complex apps. It's just less powerful. I don't like, I don't know. Maybe like the thing I'm thinking about is, well, I guess also with you, we're limited because we don't have a lot of these things, right? So like I have no choice. And that's the sort of the mindset I'm in, is like, what can we do with the tools that we have right now? So yeah, in that case, absolutely. If you have like a single mega state and you have the ability to not re-render every app, then absolutely, yeah, that's really good. I don't think we have that in Yew. So we have to go with smaller states for Yew. What if you need the data and states in multiple places? Well, I mean, you can pull them in. It's essentially free because it's already defined and there, and so you're not copying like the actual data. You're copying essentially smart pointers to the data. So it's not like you're adding in a whole bunch of overhead. Data wise, you are adding a whole bunch of overhead code wise, though. Absolutely for that. But there's hooks for it too, for grabbing those, which are nice. Mariar 23, hello. Yeah, and that's it. I'm excited to see where we're gonna go, and I'm also excited to sort of play around with some of the other ones, right? Like Leptos, Daxis. What are some of the other ones? We're gonna do this. I'm gonna sort of like refine it, make sure it's going well. I'm probably gonna do Axum next. That will give me like a full stack. Then I probably can start like looking into some of the other front end frameworks. Fine grain requires more than just state tracking. It requires a hook into the render engine, which allows the render engine to keep track of the HTML element it needs to update. Virtual DOM can't do that. Like unless you're using incredibly small components, Virtual DOM is, well, I guess like so. Describe how the virtual DOM works, because I think that's going to even if it's at just sort of a high level, I think that's gonna be important to do. Okay, so we have debug an app, infinite state repo. Do I want to do something like describe why smaller states are I guess like it's gonna be part of life cycle. It's gonna be part of other things. I don't think I need to do anything else with that. Okay. There's some other life cycle ones that I'm wondering about, but I'm not completely sure. Okay, so we have passing props down. There is a thing about passing callbacks up. This would be maybe more of like an architecture type thing. So I want to be able to create an architecture that allows parents to pass data to children without knowing how they work. Create an architecture that allows children to pass data to parents without knowing how they work. Now you might be a little bit smarter than React, since they break out use effect and use effect depths into different hooks. You never looked, but it might have a little bit more control of the updating over React. SSYers. MobX does the update tracking, and MobX React observes in each component independently. So I'm not aware of anything like that. We'll see in the documentation. The Yew documentation has been decently good at basically saying like, hey, in like more in advanced, hey, there's these other things you can do that gives you these capabilities. But also because it's still in sort of like, technically beta state, I wouldn't be surprised if um, the the thing that would be tracking that isn't going to be really really there for you until Yew is really solidified. It would really suck to make something like MobX and then Yew changes its internals and it just completely breaks it. Compared to how I use it, moving to Yew would be a huge step backwards. Considering code organization, not even performance, it's a matter of finding a MobX for Rust, right? And that makes sense. And I think there are signal based front end frameworks. So if signals are able to kind of solve that problem for you, then does Leptos use signals or is it Diaxis? I can't remember. One of them I think use signals, and then that might be something to like seriously consider. Leptos does. Okay, so Leptos might I would recommend just like taking a brief look at Leptos and see whether or not it's something that solves those problems for you. Function component attribute works with generic functions for creating that. Okay. I mean, is that all you're saying in this section is just use function component? Oh, wait. No, I get it. Without the parentheses. Oh, I didn't even realize. Okay. Creating generic components. Oh, because it takes in like a T. It's almost like, what's the point? I'm having trouble like thinking about like where would I use such like that generic of a component? I've not run into anything like that before. Cause like even then I would still want to name it something that's pretty generic or pretty, I guess like it's just named after this, but okay. It's a I mean this example itself is pretty I don't even like this. This is so contrived. It's like not using the type at all in any meaningful way. So I'm gonna skip that. HTML. Okay, so we can write HTML. I think we already have something about writing HTML, right? Yeah, we can use HTML to create. Okay. The nightly compiler gives us linting, but that's like I don't want to force people to use linters. Like, sorry, nightly to use a linter. Specify attribute properties. Okay, so like all the normal things about that, special properties, conditional rendering. Markup can be rendered conditionally by used by Rust conditional structures plus. Currently only if and if let are support. Oh, okay. Is this a JavaScript error? Were they trying to concatenate this sentence to this one? That feels this plus feels suspect to me. Okay, so yes, I think conditional renderings. Let's see. Text structure. Did I put in here about fragments? I did not. Okay, so let's throw in something about fragments. So, uh, create a component with multiple root uh, tags, HTML tags, using a fragment. Let's see, tag structure. Okay, so I mean, it's pretty much the exact same as JSX, except it's a little bit nicer than JSX because you don't have to use classes. I like it's for convenience, but it makes me wonder if they just wrote a regex and then this is just a side effect of that. Create a complex HTML and SVG layouts with ease. I mean, yes, just normal that. So specifying attributes and properties. Yes, that might be good to sort of like specify in here. So, well, actually, no, it we have that. That is part of pass in. That's part of pass in properties. Okay, so never mind. That's fine. Properties are specified with the tilde before the element name. Wait, what? I've I'm confused about this. Why? Like, we don't need that very often, right? Because I don't think that really affects anything, right? All right. Well, now I need to test something out. All right. Well, let's start the DB up. Okay. So let's head over to pages home, maybe. Okay. So we have all the links and everything else. Okay. So we have this margin. Um. So I wonder, can I do tilde here? If I do that, are you happy? You're running. Oh, you're running on 8080. Oh, because this is YCL. Never mind. This is That one. Yeah, nothing really happened here. That's perfectly fine, apparently. Um, Now, if I get rid of you, does the tilde give me autocomplete? I mean, almost. It sees that, but that's not what I want. It's like I don't really need it. So I guess like I'm confused because they call it out here as something that you can do, but also I don't think you really need to do this unless those are all attributes, and I've never worked with properties. I guess I'm just confused about that. I don't think we need to do that. Component properties. Component properties are passed as REST objects and are different from the element attribute properties described here. Where is that? Is that coming up? Or is that back at properties? Function components properties. That's okay, that's literally back there. So we were already here. Okay, do I see? There is no tilde in this document anywhere. Component properties are passed are different from the element attributes properties described here. So these are for what? I'm not sure. It doesn't really say. Is this for working with like third-party libraries? This might be working for third-party libraries and like other WebAssembly created stuff. Maybe that's what it's for. I don't know if I need them. If we do, then I'll add it in. Special properties. There are special properties that don't directly influence the DOM, but instead act as instructions to use virtual DOM. Okay, so we have ref and key. So we can give a key. Have I needed to use a key? I don't think I've needed to use a key. Maybe I have. I don't remember. Maybe it just doesn't yell at me to use a key, and I should be using a key. So we have ref, like something to do the ref. Key, we'll do that in a list one. Conditional rendering, so that's important. So conditionally render conditionally render some, not just like data, but some HTML in a component. Okay, components. Components can be built in the HTML macro. I mean, okay. Oh, can be used. Sorry, I read that as can be built in the HTML macro. I'm like, what? No, it's can be used, obviously. So that's okay. We know how that works. Nested components can be passed as children if they have a children field in their properties. Do I have children stuff here? Yeah, create a component that uses children. HTML macro allows you to pass a base expression with the props. Okay, so the dot prop syntax instead of specifying each property. Similarly, similar to Rust functional update syntax. The base must occur. So right, okay, yeah. So I can pass. Well, they specifically call it out, and a lot of people want this type of thing. Oh wait, did I put it in here as? I think we put this in here already, didn't we? Pass data to components using properties. So then this might also be a pass in all uh, all in objects. I have to do it for a props, right? Yeah, I have to use the props. Okay, so um, I think it was called like and the rest syntax. So pass in um, pass in props to a component using all the rest syntax or and the rest syntax or something like that, which is dot props. The fact that the name has to include an example is like, why can't they just call it the spread operator or something else like JavaScript? Just something nice and simple that we can Google. Oh, that's interesting. Children will be overwritten with this. I guess that's nice. Nested children with props. Nested component properties can be accessed and mutated if the containing component types is children, and the list component can wrap list items component. So we have list item props. Function list item. This. Okay, so we destructure out the value. Clone and then value that. Well, I mean, that's just grabbing that. Okay, modified children. So we take the props, children, we iterate and map through them. Oh, and then so we can update the properties with this. Yeah. I don't know if that's necessary for us to do for this. Elements. Um uh, so this is like creating an element and then throwing that in there. Okay, so that creates a node. Return that node as an HTML value. And there's also dynamic tag names. This feels like it might be important to be able to use like third-party libraries or something that doesn't exist. I wonder what would it be? It's not WebAssembly, web component. Web component library, like library. Oh, it's like web components is like material design. This one, I think. Yeah, okay. So this is a like super beta. It's getting better. It's pretty nice. It's a web component material like library. So there's no CSS, like no generic like third party or like big single CSS file needed. They're all completely self-contained and you can use them. The problem is that they don't have everything that you need yet. So you still need to build some of your own, which is not great if you're trying to build like an actual real production thing. But the idea is here, and this is really cool. The demos really just show like, hey, you can, this button is just a button like that. And then you can just do all the things to it. And there's lots of stuff you can do. Over here in button, it shows you just install it and then you can use it. The problem being that you have to install it with npm. So I don't know exactly how I would try to like use this in a course. So I don't think I can really add this in until I have like some examples to do. Like I need something to do with it to like show it off. And I don't want to just do some like contrived thing. I want something real. So I'm going to let that go for now. But I do think this is important. I just don't know how to deal with it yet. You've seen projects that mix npm with Rust. I mean, you need npm to run Playwright. That's true. So how would that work? That would be I install npm. Well, okay. I have everybody install Node. I have we install the web component library. I then have to use Webpack. Could I potentially have trunk pull like reach into the node modules folder, find the JavaScript libraries for that, and then put them into the folder. They maybe that might work. That might work. Testing with Playwright. I think that I don't want to miss that. That's a good point though. Wait, did they have a CDN? I didn't even pay attention. If they have a CDN, then we can use that. Oh, right there. Literally right there. Getting started with a CDN. Oh, perfect. Okay. Required. So, oh, they do have a global style sheet. Oh, that's too bad. But everything else is together, and then okay. So let's try this. Use a third party component library. So use a, and then maybe this would be like use a third-party web component library. Test the application with Playwright. Okay, so that would work. That would work. And in that case, that would force us to do these DOM nodes, I believe, to wrap around those things and then make it so that way it will be okay with what we do. So I'm okay with that. Dynamic tag names. When building a higher order component, you might find yourself in a situation where the element's tag name isn't static. For example, you might have a title component which can render anything from H1 to H6. Well, I mean, yes, I have that. Instead of having to use a big match expression, Yew allows you to set the tag name dynamically using @name, where name can be any expression that returns a string. Well, that's pretty cool. It's kind of exactly like what I'm doing. Haha, this is so much better. So much better. My titles would, like, I'm literally using a match statement with a level. And this would absolutely fix that. So let's do dynamic. Okay, so this is create a component with dynamic tag names with a dynamic tag name and a and dynamic a. And this example is perfect because it's actually a real life use case. I like it. Boolean attributes. Some content attributes checked, hidden, required are called Boolean attributes, and Boolean need to be set to a bool value. Oh, it's just like you actually need to specifically set them. There's sometimes where like in more in like React, I think, and Vue and something else, you could just do hidden and not have the equal sign, and it would be fine. Here you have to actually set that. I don't think I need like a specific domain for, or sorry, a single standard for that. String-like attributes. I love that. You'll be dealing with mostly strings. Yes, I know. Attribute values is where we're going for this. Use the attribute value. We have a standard for that. Optional attributes for HTML elements. Most HTML element attributes can be optional values, some X or none. This allows us to omit the attribute if the attribute is marked as optional. Oh, right. We could just use some for that. So I think it's not like on the HTML side that we care about this, but we just say create properties that are optional. And I think I have properties that have defaults, right? Yeah, use the property derived field attributes, but then there's like an actual truly optional properties also. Events. Okay. This one, obviously, so we want to handle what kind of event do we want to handle? We want to like handle, I guess, like create a callback, like create callback functions for handling events. No, I think it's really just going to be like just handling all the different types of events that are really important. It's like I want to handle blah event. Um, so now bubbling might be important too. I Yeah, before starting your app, this speeds up event handling, but some components may break from not receiving events they expect. Use this with care. Yeah, I've never run into an area like an app that I've wanted to just turn off event bubbling. It's not like almost all the time you want to be able to put you want event delegation. You want to be able to put your handler on like a top level thing and not have to have hundreds of events all over the place, because really what's really going to slow you down is having lots of event handling type stuff, not event bubbling itself. So that's I don't even know if I want to teach that. I don't think that's that. I don't think this is normal. I think this is like super advanced and not necessarily somebody would care about like you doing. Event delegation is absolutely huge. So so like I said, handle an event is going to be one thing, and then I guess okay, let's just do this. Handle events with a callback function, and then here. Um, VDOM has to reattach the events on every render. That's where the true slowdown comes from when people talk about the VDOM. Um, oh, it's is it reattach the events? For some reason, I always thought like the events were like literally being recreated again too, because it's like it's new DOM stuff, right? Like it's super new, or are they moving it? Is it just moving the event from one to another, or is it recreating it? I always thought it was recreating it, but I could be wrong with that. Either way, it's like expensive as heck. And so like the less events you have, the better it is. I mean, that being said, if you're just using like jQuery or not VDOM, the less events you have is good anyways. Um, I once had a student that went through and they did a loop. They wanted to they had a grid. One of the exercises to teach this very thing. It's a trap. It's a trap. Um, is we create a grid and you click on it, you can color each item in a grid. We think we called it pixel art as the exercise. And the idea was okay, um, we can replace and not have to have 1,000 event handlers if we have a single event handler on the top level. But what most students do, because they haven't learned event delegation yet, is they'll create a, well, hopefully create a loop to then loop through and do it. So if we do like a 10 by 10 grid, you have to do something like that. Otherwise, you're going to create 100 functions manually, which we have had some students do. But like, hey, there's teachable moments there. It's awesome. I had one student who decided to get really interesting and they created really tiny pixels. And they created not like 10 by 10 grid. It was like they created a lot of grid items. Thousands and thousands and thousands of individual cells. And so they created the loop to create a event handler for each cell, and this is not using a front end framework. Like we're just using vanilla JavaScript in that. So it's the best possible scenario for like just speed with the DOM, and that thing slowed down to a crawl when trying to use it because there's so many event handlers being attached and listened to, and not good. But a single one on the top just like sped that up so much. It was a great way to show like look at the difference in speed with like removing a bunch of code and replacing it with a single event handler. So handle events with a callback function, and then this would be use event delegation to only have a single single event handler for multiple events. It's not really for multiple events. For listening to events on multiple DOM nodes, elements. I like that a little bit more. Okay, I think we have the typed. So somewhere in here we have a type. Like a convert. Maybe it wasn't convert, it was something. Cast? Yeah, cast U element to WebSys element. Okay, that's what I want to do there. Using target. Okay, so that's all fine. Doing all that stuff. Manual event listener. You may want to listen to an event that's not supported by use HTML macro. In order to add an event listener to one of the elements manually, we need the help of Node.ref. So that in use effect with deps, we can add a listener using the WebSys and Wasm BindGen API. Now that's going to be interesting because that custom, like these material, they have events on them. So I think this is going to be important. So creates. I do need. Oh, I think. The example below are going to show adding event listers for the made up custard event. So we have our to custard listener. This is all in use. Wait, is this in use effect? Oh yeah. So this has to like on the load of this, we throw in like a listener. So all right. This is create an event handler for a custom event. Event handler for a custom event. Glue. The easier way is with glue events, which is an abstraction. Wait. Can glue just, well, either way. If it can do like custom events with glue, that's so much better. And there's so many of these cool things to work with. All right. Not sure there's anything else I need to do in here for standards for events. So next up, classes. So struct classes can be used to deal with HTML classes, right? So like, I think we have something in for adding classes. Describe when add classes to HTML tags. That would be using the classes here, and that's like all of these. You can handle all that stuff. Oh, and then like, we do need that. Create a component that can be styled using classes. Or maybe a better way to put it, create a component that that allows the parent to add classes to it. I think that's better. Fragments, we already did that. Lists, okay. So yeah, I don't think I use keys. I should use keys because it makes things more optimized. Uh, I'm just I'm so used to not thinking about keys because the browser yells at me if I'm supposed to use a key and I haven't in React or Vue or Angular or literally everything else. But Vue, it doesn't do that. So, all right. I want to, I guess, render a list of data to is it really render? It's like create HTML, uh, from a list of data, and then use the key. Is it operator? Um, maybe like maybe describe why, or maybe just like use. Um, I guess like create HTML from a list of data uh, with keys. Something like that then. Come on, save. Um, this is interesting. So this could also be another thing of like describe why uh, keys, like why we like keys should be added to a list. So where do we put it? We put div key name this okay as part of that iter, yeah. Describe why keys should be added to a list. Um, maybe that. It's not really a question. And that would be the performance thing. And this is good. So like I would have people, hey, go read through this, maybe like play with the keyed list, maybe create it yourself and play around with it. Okay. Literals and expressions. If uh, if expressions resolve to types that implement display, they'll be converted to strings and inserted into the DOM as text node. Oh, so like just basically displaying whatever you want. So this would be it's almost like two things for here. I want you to be able to determine uh or like to tell me if something can be just used as a literal in a DOM node. So if something can be displayed to the screen. So describe if a um, describe why a struct like a struct, or maybe I should just say like an object, can or cannot be uh, used as a literal in um, like in a tag or as a child. And then also the other thing would be create it. So convert not convert, like make it. So like add the display prop. No, implement the display prop. Implement the display prop property. Wait, it's not property. It's trait. Trait for a struct so that it can be used as a literal. Um, as a literal child. Okay. Expressions. So like run, I guess run Rust expressions inside the HTML tag. So run Rust expressions inside the HTML macro. Yeah, it often makes sense to extract those out. I don't know if I necessarily need to specifically call that out here. Conditional rendering. Didn't we already do conditional rendering? I feel like this is um, conditionally render some HTML in a component. That was like up here. I feel like this has repeated itself a little bit. So we have like if else, if let else. So I don't know if I need anything else because I think I already have that. So agents. I have not used this, but I think this is important for the course. So therefore, we're gonna put these in. So basically, we're gonna create web work, create an agent. So maybe this is gonna be like the first one to describe what an agent is. So describe what an agent is. There will exist at most one instance of a public agent at a given time. Okay, so communication between agents and components. So we have bidirectional. Um, the incur serialization overhead. Right. I think you can't actually pass data, right? You can only pass strings um, through it, or maybe even worse, maybe just numbers, because it's exiting outside of the WebAssembly ecosystem, which is that's a thing. So okay, basically we describe what an agent is. Um, we have create an agent to, I think, can we use it to, oh yeah, communicate. So a bridge allows better between agent and component. Bridges will also allow agents to communicate with one another. Um, Dispatchers. So basically, we want to be able to do these things, right? It's like bridge. So use agents. So create it. Use agents to send data between components, sibling components, really. I also want to like a dispatcher type thing. Um, this would be something like, okay, send to the agent, have the agent do like a request out, and then have that come back. Oh, that was so. Yeah. I have so the plan, the full plan for the course is that there's going to be sort of like two levels to this course. First, it's going to be pretty deep, but I'm also going to break it out. So we're going to have like the full course that you can buy, and then I'm going to break out like individual pieces of that. You can buy each individual piece of it. And the second thing is I want to take the full course and then do the equivalent of like a React Roots, the Roots course that CJ just did. I'm inspired to sort of do that type of thing here with this. So if I have the course and it's the full one, I can say, hey, you could buy this and go through on your own, or you can pay more. And like every day, every few days, I'm not sure exactly what the cadence would be. We're going to meet on Discord, and it's going to be a sort of like we're going to work through it all together and go. And you're not just going to be a beginner at you when you're done with this. You're going to be good at you. And I think there's room in the market for this because I don't think anybody else has anything like this right now. And then if I can do this to all of the major, like the other sort of like secret thing, if I can do this to all the major um, front end frameworks with Rust, that will help Rust adoption in the front end significantly because there'll be really good resources for then just going and using it. I think that's like one of the reasons why people don't want to do it. So yeah, that's why I'm going deep on this one. The YouTube ones was like to also validate that this is like people are interested in it. All right. Unfortunately, let's see. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to end pretty soon. Let's see if I could do more of that. Use agents and data between sibling components. Use agents to the big reason to use like a web. I don't know if agents can do this. Agents use web workers and cursor. Okay, they use binary bin code to communicate with other threads that causes them to be higher than just calling a function. Um, I think like use agents to like for I don't think we need to do offline mode type stuff. That's like one of the big reasons to use web agents or workers. So I guess I mean, it can kind of. It's not just that. Also, if you're in online mode, you can cache. To cache web API requests. That's the other thing that you can do. All right. Next is to be context. So let's throw this in here. All right. So continuing to plan. All right. That's all there and happy. Let's see. Tomorrow morning, probably gonna keep on working on this. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to sort of continue looking through it, but we're almost done with creating those, creating like the list of standards. After the list of standards, then I use the standards and use this understanding by design book to like go through and like maybe we don't want to use all the standards, maybe yes, maybe no, and then figure out like lessons and start building those. So with that's something we can look forward to. So with that, have a great rest of your Friday, everybody. Good luck stacking with your operation. Hopefully it happens today, and the sooner the better, obviously. So we're rooting for you there, and I will see you probably on Monday. And everybody else, I could see you probably tomorrow morning at around between 7 and 9 a.m. Mountain Time. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.